I'm Fennorian of House Ravenwatch. I'm an arcane investigator of sorts. And yes, I'm a vampire, but I'm one of the good ones. Really. Blood. An acquired taste. My first few days as a vampire required choking down that viscous liquid. But I've come to accept and even appreciate its nuanced flavors. My favorite comes from a highly relaxed Nord. I would describe it as crisp. I definitely see Kallin's usefulness as a blood source. All the members of House Ravenwatch treat him with the utmost respect and kindness. To claim that I haven't filled my flask from him would be a lie. But yes, it's a very odd arrangement. Oh, have no fear. I never partake of unwilling blood donors. House Ravenwatch only ever uses paid and willing blood servants. We treat them very well, never drink to excess, and compensate them for their service. While vampirism isn't my most important feature, people always ask about it first. What about my treatise on witch familiars or my skill as a glassmith? No, everyone asks about drinking blood. Oh, I just realized. It's because they're scared. House Ravenwatch remains unique among our kind, but vampires have a reputation for savagery for good reason. Now that I experience the crushing hunger, I understand. Slipping into evil isn't as unthinkable as before. I must never forget that. Ever since Count Verandis brought me into House Ravenwatch, I felt a sense of belonging. I never experienced the lust for power or desire to cause suffering that some vampires display. A loving family like this is precisely what I need. I see Count Ravenwatch as more than a father figure. My birth father was quite cruel, whereas Verandis showed me compassion from the moment he found me. Here's the truth. If not for him, I may have descended to become a bloodfiend. How shameful of me. My siblings in House Ravenwatch lovingly accuse me of being soft. They say we live in a rough world, full of threats and cruelty. I know this well. I only seek to provide a counterbalance to the darkness by displaying politeness whenever possible. Gwendis behaves just as any true sister. She teases me endlessly. She calls me Bookworm due to my love of libraries and my passion for books. I haven't yet thought of a nickname for her. I really must do some research. Oh, blast! I am a bookworm. I'd like to properly thank you for your companionship on our adventures. After a life spent in a laboratory, facing real danger feels invigorating. I'd say it makes me feel alive, but, well... Anyway, let's chase some danger together again soon. Adusa-daro expressed skepticism when she heard about our adventures. She seemed to think you did more of the work than I let on. Maybe we should carefully document my contributions the next time you and I go into the field. I always bring a notebook. Adusa-daro's clarity of mind never fails to impress me. I try to mimic her decisiveness, but often get lost in the analysis of details. She has trained me in some excellent taunts, though. May your fur itch and grow patchy. See? Rivenspire is a fine place to live. It's the seat of House Ravenwatch, so I shouldn't criticize it. But by the stars, is it dreary. Maybe I can eventually convince the others to at least buy a summer home. Even Skyrim would be better. While I still have duties to House Ravenwatch, I'd love to experience more of Tamriel. I want to study ancient Argonian rituals in Blackmarsh, and I long to see the haunted Dunmerry mushroom forests. Wherever something's uncanny, I want to go there. Even before my present condition, I rarely drank alcohol. But I always kept a filled flask to offer people with useful information. Many investigations back then relied on a well-lubricated source letting slip a secret or two. Even before my condition, vampirism fascinated me. The disease seemed to corrupt people spiritually as well as biologically. I felt sympathy for those transformed against their will. Now I understand that, for many, the corruption is a choice. I greatly struggled with my condition at first. Still do, if I'm honest. But some of the benefits are amazing. Traveling while in the form of mist? Incredible. Dexterity and strength improved too. A shame that becoming undead was the cost. I'm fortunate. While I find the sun's gaze uncomfortable, exposure doesn't burn me like some with my condition. What do I feel? How to describe? Sunlight feels like someone rolling pine cones all over my skin without end. In many ways, I'm quite fortunate. Despite the various trials and pains I've experienced, I managed to stumble into a life filled with purpose. Count Verandis gave me shelter and a family, and now I count you as an excellent friend. How lucky am I? Of all the downsides, the hunger has always been the worst for me. Before, I could ignore my need for food with sufficient distraction. Now the bloodthirst never leaves my mind. My flask has preserved my sanity on more than one occasion. When I encounter a bloodfiend, revulsion washes over me. They exist as pure desire made manifest. At first, I tried to deal with them rationally. Maybe a positive conversation could reach their minds, I thought. Most definitely not so. I believe in balance. Perhaps that comes from my alchemical studies. As a vampire, I'll always tip in the direction of darkness. I have to accept that. My wish is to perform enough good deeds that I get closer to the balance I desire. Alchemy is my first love and my constant passion. The anticipation for an unknown reaction is unlike any other. If you haven't tried the art, I highly recommend it. Many find the experience intoxicating. And sometimes you can drink the results. I'm told that some people find me attractive. My sister Gwendis said that a woman in North Point called me cute. I find this confusing, but not unwelcome. Romantic relationships have eluded my investigation so far. Maybe that should end. My interest in the healing arts began as a way to study alchemy, but it's since grown very important to me. Once I became a creature that typically heralds death, I wanted to move in the other direction. Sustaining life feels more valuable now. Arcane investigations happen more often in a library than in a haunted graveyard. Finding a severed tongue scarred with ancient runes can be exhilarating, but spending days hunched over dusty tomes to translate those runes? That's the real fun. I once investigated a woman and her bird. She claimed to still hear her beloved creature's song weeks after her pet's tragic death. Turns out the fox who ate the bird now sang the very same tune outside her window each night. Quite eerie. People often ask what formal training I needed to become an arcane investigator. I had none, aside from a brief alchemy apprenticeship. No, all one needs is immense curiosity and determination. Oh, yes, and a wild disregard for personal safety. As vampires, you and I have a responsibility to the world. We cannot feed on the unwilling or pass on this disease. I understand that hunger you feel. It overrides good sense and morality. But you must stay resolute. Be a force for good, not evil. No doubt you've heard stories about the origins of our condition. I wouldn't let them worry you overmuch. We cannot be held responsible for actions beyond our control. All that matters is how we behave in the here and the now. The topic of a cure comes up often among our kind. I don't know if you've considered, but I have. Even researched the process, which seems very rare and difficult. In the end, I decided against taking the cure. This is who I am, and I accept that.